met Gabe, I never knew trailer editing was a thing. Apparently, people have been making a lot of money just doing trailer editing. Obviously, sound is also something that is very critical. As you need to be able to make a trailer. It's something that people are looking forward to be able to watch.
So I started out in Hollywood. I was a runner. I would drive film from the studios to the company I was working for. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years, every day, just literally taking canisters of film. I was an editor. The first trailer I finished was a film called National Security. You can look that up on YouTube if you want. That was my first trailer finish. I've worked on, so many movies. So many movies I can't even remember any of them. It's all the Marvel movies. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean. I worked on a lot of television shows. I worked on Empire for a long time. When I was editing, I loved it, and I never thought I would do anything else. But eventually, I think as you get older, you realize that to kind of survive in this industry, you need to start doing other things. So now I'm also a creative director, and so I have a team in LA, and we work with a lot of different studios, clients, streaming services, Amazon, Netflix. We worked on all the Amazon Africa stuff in Nigeria, Gangs of Lagos, She Must Be Obeyed, Breath of Life, all that stuff. I was lucky enough to have a family member who was a trailer editor back in the 70s and 80s when they used to cut on film. So he would literally be in the editing room all day, hunched over, looking through a viewfinder about this big with a razor blade splicing film. That's how they used to do trailers. And then obviously they moved to deck to deck. So you have a tape source, and then you'd have another second tape deck, and you'd literally be putting clips from one tape deck to the other and rewinding and finding your edit points, and it was slow. It would take a very long time to do. So thankfully they came up with the Avid system, which I don't know if any of you know Avid. You probably work on Premiere Pro now, which came from Avid. And that has sped things up tremendously. So it's a good thing, but it also means that clients want things faster. So we're just always working faster and faster, I guess, as technology improves. So I started out in Hollywood. I was a runner. I would drive film from the studios to the company I was working for. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years, every day, just literally taking canisters of film. I remember one day I had to make a delivery to the set, and it was Mission Impossible. And I'll never forget, I walked in the soundstage, and they were actually shooting, the opening of Mission Impossible with the fuse that gets lit. Like, that wasn't a graphic. They actually shot that for the original film. And so I remember seeing they had that all set up in the soundstage, and it was fun. It was always fun getting to do things like that. One time I was working on Titanic, if you've ever seen that movie. And the director, James Cameron, lived in Malibu, which is about maybe 45 minutes from LA. And I had to take a tape to his house. And I remember I'm driving out there, and I get out there, and literally the road goes into a river. And I'm like, I can't drive through this river. And so I had to drive all the way back into town. I call in, no cell phones back then. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? There's a river here. And they're like, no, it's not deep, just drive through it. So I'm like, okay. Hop back in the car, drive through the river. And I remember I knocked on his door, and there was like a voice, this booming voice that just said, please come in. And so I go in, and there's a long hallway, and at the very end of the hallway, it was dark, and the doors open just a little bit, and I see like this light flickering. And I go in there, I knock on the door, I go in, and James Cameron is sitting there editing the film Titanic with his editor. And so it's just stuff like that it was cool. Like it was just always a really fun job. I enjoyed being around big movies and television shows. And so I was an editor, started out as an editor, had to work my butt off to become an editor. It was work all day, driving. At night, I would just stay on my own time, and because the editing systems would open up, the editors would go home for the day. And then I would stay there till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, just cutting and trying to get better. And I would show the editors the next day, and they would give me feedback, and I would just do that over and over for months and months. And yeah, I mean, I think it took like 4 or 5 years. So it takes a while, you know. You have to, if you really love what you're doing, put your heart and soul into it, and do whatever you need to do to reach that goal. Because it may take a while, but you know, things are definitely attainable if you work hard. So I was an editor. The first trailer I finished was a film called National Security. You can look that up on YouTube if you want. That was my first trailer finish. I've worked on, I mean, so many movies. It's so many movies I can't even remember any of them. It's all the Marvel movies. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean. I worked on a lot of television shows. I worked on Empire for a long time. And so when I was editing, you know, I loved it, and I never thought I would do anything else. But eventually, I think as you get older, you realize that to kind of survive in this industry, you need to start doing other things. So now I'm also a creative director. And so I have a team in LA, and we work with a lot of different studios, clients, streaming services, Amazon, Netflix. We worked on all the Amazon Africa stuff in Nigeria, Gangs of Lagos, She Must Be Obeyed, Breath of Life, all that stuff. And so it's fun. It's a fun job. So then the number one thing I would say is have fun, because you know, you could be out digging ditches every day in the hot sun, and that's not fun. But this job is fun. And so, you know, every day when you're editing, working, whatever you're doing, editing, shooting, just have fun. Because to me, like, there's no other job I'd rather do. So it's amazing that we get paid to do this stuff. So, all right.
Creatives.
Exactly. So I want to take you a little bit through the trailer process. And I would say, here's my first lesson, and you guys are really good, is I can tell everyone's writing stuff down. Always carry a notebook. I still carry a notebook with me. Every meeting I'm in, I have a notebook. Every time I talk to a client, I have a notebook, and always write stuff down, because when you're getting feedback on your work, if you're not writing it down, you're going to forget. And one of the worst things for us is if someone gives us a note or feedback and we have to go back and say, you know, what did you say again about that? You know, don't let that happen. Write everything down. So I know she's handing out the sheet. Let me take you through just the basics. So who can tell me what's the most important thing you're trying to achieve when you're cutting a trailer? There's one very, very important thing.
Try to tell the story in a shorter version.
Yes, that's good. But the one thing is you're trying to sell the film. Yeah. And so that trumps everything. You're trying to sell the film. If you're making a commercial, you're trying to sell the product. If it's a TV show, you're trying to sell the TV show, podcast, whatever it is. That's the goal. And so everything we're doing here is We want viewers to get excited, to have an emotional connection to what we're doing so that they go out and watch the film. So the hardest thing to me when I start cutting, and I think a lot of editors, and I'm sure a lot of creatives, whether you're a painter or a musician, is staring at that blank canvas in the beginning. And editing is that blank timeline. That to me, it's scary. Like, you've watched the film, you know the film, and then you need to cut something, and it's like, what do I do? So here's my advice. When you start out cutting, just get something on the timeline as fast as you can. Make a structure. Like, pretend like you're building a house. Build the first floor. Build the foundation. Because then everything you do, whether you're on version 2, 3, some of our trailers, I'm not kidding, go to version 40 or version 50, because there's a lot at stake, and a lot of people have notes and thoughts. So build that foundation, because everything is going to come off of that. So what I mean by that is there's two ways that I would attack a trailer. The first, I watch the film, and if there are lines in the film, if there's a story in the film that really resonates with me, or I'm like, okay, that's the key line for the open, that's the key line for the drama in the middle, that's the key cliffhanger line, I'll put those lines down on the timeline. Doesn't mean I won't change them later, but then at least they're there. At least my timeline's not blank anymore. Because then you can relax a little bit and really get into the rhythm of cutting. The second way sometimes that I would start a trailer is if there's a music cue that I feel is just perfect for the piece, that I feel emotionally. And when I'm starting out listening to music, like, don't just pay attention. Like, listen to the music, feel the music. If there's a song you like or a couple songs that you like, turn the lights off, turn your phone off, and just play that song over and over and feel it. Because if you don't feel it, the viewer's not going to feel it. So, everything is about emotional connection, right? So that would be the second way I would start a trailer, is I would start with the music. I would just kind of lay it out how I think it's going to work. Again, like, I want to be flexible. I'm not going to box myself in where it's like, okay, this music cue, I put it down, this is how I have to use it. Like, maybe it doesn't work when you start cutting picture to it. Maybe there's other parts of the song that are better. So always be flexible with your work. And that goes for the whole process, because you're going to fall in love with your cuts, and that's okay. But know that other people are always going to have thoughts, and they're going to tell you their thoughts. You may not like their thoughts, but it's your job to take their thoughts and work it into the trailer that you're working on. And getting upset about those notes or feedback is you can get upset, but be upset for 2 seconds and then dig in and work. Trust me, I get upset sometimes. Like, I get really stupid notes all the time it's usually from like the higher up people at the studios, because it'll be like, the head of the studio will watch a trailer and he'll be like, my granddaughter said she doesn't like that song or something like that. You're laughing, I know it's funny, but that happens all the time, stuff like that. And so, just be flexible, be connected with your cut, but be willing to adjust if you need to, exactly. So do you guys know basic 3-act structure of plays and storytelling? Okay. Yep. So storytelling, a trailer is basically the same thing. So you're going to have your act 1, which is your introduction. So I'll let you write this down. So introduction, you're going to kind of set the scene. set who your characters are. There's nothing worse than having a character pop up in the middle of a trailer and nobody knows who it is, and then it throws the entire thing off. So, and that's not to say you have to set up every single character at the top, but you want to set your main characters, set kind of what the setting is. It's a good time to, if it's a film that takes place in Lagos, like show some beautiful wide shots of Lagos, and then it'll just, in the viewer's mind, then they have their foundation, and they don't have to guess what things are later on, because you want to spoon feed things to everybody. Like I know this is kind of rude to say, but like when I'm cutting, like I imagine that the viewers who are watching this are like the dumbest people in the world, because there's a lot of stupid people out there. And so just when I think about that, I'm like, okay, I need to make sure everything's clear. And that's kind of the lesson there. Like no matter how clear you think things are, there's gonna be someone that doesn't get it. So just make things as clear as possible. So Act 1, you have your scene, you have your setting, you have your characters. And then Act 2 is where you kind of set the stakes. And you can Google 3-act structure, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that'll come up. So you set the stakes. That now it's like, okay, the film's set in Lagos, and maybe there's a guy robs a bank, and then you find out he's doing it because his daughter is ill. So now you're setting the stakes. You have your setting. Now you're really building that emotional connection, because now you need to keep people around, not just for the trailer, but you need them to come back and watch the film as well. So you're setting the stakes, the drama's going up and up and up and up, and then you get to the 3rd act, and that's basically the climax. So the difference in a trailer 3-act structure and like a story is, in a story you'll have a resolution, in a play you'll have a resolution, in a trailer you're not going to have a resolution. Yeah, exactly. You want to kind of give them a cliffhanger. So that's the slight difference in the 3-act structure. But again, that 3-act structure is going to be in every single thing that you do. I don't want to confuse you. There are some slight variations to it, but stick to that and you'll be good. So sometimes in a trailer, there's a little bit of, they call it kind of a 4-act structure, where you might have just a really good scene that kind of takes place before you start getting into character introductions, but that's a little bit more advanced. Like, focus on 3-act structure and you can build any story that you're ever trying to do. So. Okay, so the sheet that I just gave you, make copies of this, carry this with you whenever you're making stuff, because this is what we use at the Refinery. Whenever we're looking at a piece, this is how we analyze it. This is how we talk about it. This is what we want our editors to think about. This is what we want our writers to think about. This is what we want our graphics people to think about. Like, if you start checking off these boxes, if you can honestly say you've hit these things, you're gonna have a really good trailer. So the first thing, storytelling. That storytelling trumps everything. You need to have a very clear, concise story. And it needs to be clear the entire way, from top to bottom. Because if at any point in that trailer, if there's some kind of story point that doesn't make sense, the viewer's gonna stop, maybe subconsciously, and they're gonna try to figure out in their mind what just happened, and they're not gonna see the rest of what's going on the screen. So you need to make sure that from beginning to end, every point is very clear. And so just want to step back real quick. So before you start cutting, get familiar with the film. Sometimes we watch it like 2, 3, 4 times. And you want to do what's called a breakdown. And there's different ways to do breakdowns, but basically you want to take the film and you want to pull out the important points, the important lines, the important shots, important action, whatever it is. So there's a few different ways to do it. I know in Premiere you can just drop markers. That's one way people do it. Other people will cut out clips and put it on a separate timeline, so they'll have just a timeline with selects. I used to go a step further because my memory is horrible. Like, one of my coworkers, like, he can watch a film one time and he can tell you every single line that's in the film. I could watch it 5 times and I can't remember the lines. So what I would do is I would cut out the lines and then I would literally type on them, or actually sometimes I would handwrite it. I would write out every single select line, and I would have this big board in my office, and I would hang it up. And so I could walk up and I could see at any time what my lines are, what my shots are, and that to me helped me remember. It's a little bit excessive. If you have the time, I try it sometime. I know not a lot of projects, a lot of projects these days are on tight deadlines, so you don't have that much time. But if you do, it's just another way to get familiar with your material. Because then at any point, if someone gave me a note, if the client gave me a note, if I was on version 40 and they're like, we need another joke, and you've already used 39 jokes, I'll know exactly if I have another joke or not. So get familiar with your material. That's the key point. Like, don't just watch it once. You have to watch it multiple times, and you have to be comfortable with it, be able to talk about it with somebody. That's actually a good way to get familiar. Like, if I watch something and my coworker watches something, sit there and talk about it. Like, talk about what lines they liked. Tell them what lines you liked, and because those are going to be your trailer lines in most cases, the lines that people remember. So, okay, so storytelling. So you want to tell a clear, concise story. You want to make sure people understand the story. You got to make sure your story beats are in the right order, and that's where the 3-act structure comes in. That'll help you kind of map that out. Trailers, the tough thing about cutting trailers and why it's so hard and people don't realize how hard it is you're taking usually like 1 or 2 sentences from different points in the film and you're mixing them up and yeah, I mean, they need to play off of each other, and it's hard. And to me, that's why I would take it visually, because then I could see if something's going to play. If you want to see if 2 lines play off each other, throw them on your timeline. Just throw them on and take a look. And if they work well off of each other, then there you go. You start building out from there. But you need to make sure that every line makes sense. Because again, if something doesn't make sense, the viewer's going to be thrown, and then you've lost them. So I don't want to go through every single point on here. You guys can read this later. So the story arc, that's rhythm is important. You'll have your 3-act structure, but also I remember a mentor of mine. He kind of visually showed me what a story arc should look like, and he kind of went like this. Like, you don't want your story to just be like this, going along, going along, going along. You really want like stops and starts. So it's almost like a roller coaster ride, right? Like you're up, then you stop, then you're back, like, and really feel that rhythm. Like, I don't want you to be kind of like too herky-jerky with it, but you don't want to go in a straight line, because if you go in a straight line, people get bored. So that's where like music stops and stuff come into play. That's why we use music stops, like on a joke. So say you're going, boom, you stop the music, you say the joke, and then boom, you're right back into the action. And so that takes practice, it definitely takes practice. But once you get your 3-act structure down, then you'll start to be able to play with rhythm of things, and music helps with playing with rhythm. Visuals, make sure your visuals are telling a story as well. So you're telling a story with the sound bites, but you need to also visually be telling a story. And so again, if like 2 lines don't play well off of each other, 2 visuals might not play well off of each other either. So you need to kind of test that. And when you're doing visuals, make sure see and say is always very, very important. So if you're hearing something, if I'm hearing something about a dog, I want to see the dog. Don't be showing a boat, right? Like everything, again, spoon feed. So you're hearing it and you're seeing it. If there's a lyric that you like, the lyric might be about dancing at the club. Show dancing at the club. Because again, then you're building that connection. So, okay, for the last point on storytelling that we'll talk about is having a great open and a great ender. That's always very important. The open is more important than it's ever been because a lot of people now are watching trailers on their phones. They're watching quickly, they're swiping through. And if you don't hook them right away, they're gone. And so one rule some of the studios have now is the very first shot has to be a good, clear close-up of the main actor. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that's a rule they have because they want viewers who are swiping to be on that first shot and connect with that first shot. But in open, again, it's not just a shot. It could be a line, could be a moment. Like sometimes you'll see a really great action sequence for an action trailer that'll hook you. And once you have them, then hopefully they'll stick around for, it doesn't sound long, but for the next 2 minutes. And sometimes it's hard to keep people's attention for 2 minutes now, so. And then you gotta have a great ender. So, like I said, in a book, in a play, you're gonna have a resolution. In a trailer, you're not gonna have resolution. So, go out on something that is gonna make people come back to watch the film. It's very, very important. It can be a joke if it's a comedy. It can be, if it's an action movie, it might be just a really cool fight sequence, but whatever it is, go out strong. Okay, the next bucket here is music. Don't think of music as wallpaper. Think of music as another tool in your storytelling box. And what I mean by that is you don't want to pick music that just sits there in the background while everything else is going on. You want the music to be connecting with the visuals, with the bites. So, if you're telling a story about, a guy robbing a bank, you're not going to play a love song, right? And true. And I know it sounds funny, but like you'd be surprised, like the music people use sometimes, like just really make sure it connects. I can tell you an issue we're having right now. So we do a lot of stuff for Amazon Prime in Nigeria, and so they want Afro beats in all of their trailers. Afrobeats, obviously very popular globally now, and they want local audiences to connect with it. The problem with Afrobeats is musically, it doesn't do much. Not to say it's not great in the club, but if you're trying to build emotion, like in a trailer, it's looped, right? And so it's not, when you pick music, you want music that rises, exactly. You're gonna use the open in the cue, then you're gonna use the middle of the cue, then you're gonna get to that back end of the cue, where Afrobeats is just going like this. And so it's tough. Like, I can tell you, like, every single Gangs of Legos, we're working on a film right now. We're working on Ebuka, that has a documentary series where he travels around, and we've been through so many cues because they want Afrobeats, but then it's like, well, why doesn't the trailer have energy now? And it's like, so. So when you're picking music, make sure it's evoking emotion. Like that's the important part. Make sure it builds. Make sure there's an arc to the music. Like one thing I do is I just look at the waveform when I'm cutting music. And so, you're gonna start obviously lower, but then when I want the biggest part of the song, I want to see the biggest waveform, and that's gonna be the biggest part of the song. And so that's kind of, if I'm just doing something quickly, I can literally visually see what the big music beats are gonna be. So tone, make sure the tone matches. We talked about that. There is, I don't want to start confusing you, but there is kind of a counter way to attack music. And that's where if you have a bank robber, you could have maybe classical music or something. Like, think like Guy Ritchie movies, stuff like that, where the music is actually counter. Yeah, exactly. So that's another way to do it, but if you're gonna do something like that, make sure it works, because if not, it's gonna be a disaster. But try it, try stuff like that. If you have something that's like action, mess around with it, cut it to like classical music or something with more emotion, and you'd be surprised like sometimes how cool that can turn out. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have seen the rhythmic trailer editing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're watching a movie now, or a trailer now, and there's like the music's boom, boom, and you have gun, boom, boom, like, so you can literally cut sound effects to the rhythm of the music. Watch, one trailer we did is Kong Skull Island. Watch that trailer. Yeah, that's like that is literally a master class in rhythmic editing, music editing. Feel the rhythm. Everything's in rhythm, the entire piece.
An uncharted island. Let me list all the ways you're gonna die. Rain, heat, disease-carrying flies, and we haven't started on the things that want to eat you alive.
We'll double that.
Plus a bonus if we make it back. If?
In this dirty old part of the city where the sun refused to shine.
Is that a monkey?
Yeah.
He's been working so stupid. Get the hell out of here!
God on the island.
We don't belong here.
So you're going a straight line. Now we take a
I
dip.
call them skull crawlers. Why? Because it sounds neat.
Okay.
Look, I just made that name up. I'm trying to scare you.
I'm fine calling them that. Are you cool with it?
Yeah, that seems like a
I
good,
like the name.
Now it goes. So that's yeah. So it's fun doing stuff like that, and that's when this job is pretty amazing. Like when you can come up with stuff like that, and to do something like that, I know it seems intimidating. I get it. I totally get it. But once you start learning and getting the foundation for these things I'm teaching you, this stuff will come naturally. Like, it's literally just staying in rhythm. So sometimes we'll put like a click track down. So click, click, click. So then we know what the rhythm is. And then you're just cutting a sound effect on that rhythm. And then you can obviously play and be on the different beats in that rhythm. But stuff like that, once you have the foundation, you can do it. Like, anyone can do it. I promise you, like, if you looked at the Premiere timeline, you'd be like, oh wow, this looks so simple. Like, there's nothing magic on the timeline. It's just finding the right pieces. So. Okay, so with music, you want it to be a song that people remember. So Anastasia works for us now, and like the other day we were working, and like I heard her singing the song that like we'd been using the day before, and so that's when you know it's a good song. Like, if it sticks with you and sticks with the viewer. Okay, so editorial style is the next bucket. This is a little bit more advanced. Like, this is kind of the next step once you have that foundation down. Learn the basics first, the basics of storytelling, and then you start to develop your own unique style. And that's like this piece right here. Like, it had a very unique style. And it's not something that editors can do on day one. It takes a while. But if you keep doing these things over and over and over, you can do stuff like that. So what we mean by style, there's a lot of ways to look at style. It could be the way you cut, could be, it could be even music style, it could be sound effect style. I know there's a really good horror trailer editor. He never uses anything with a rhythm track. So he only uses like strings, and he makes a rhythm with sounds. And so like it could be like a scream or stuff, or a door closing, or a knife shing. But that's how he makes his rhythm. Like, you'll never hear a drum beat in any of his trailers. So he does a lot of the A24 horror stuff. I don't know if you know that studio. His name? Let me look it up. I can't remember right now. I can picture him, I can't remember. It's not our company, it's a different company. But I'll send you some of the trailers too. So I can send you guys a bunch of trailers to look at actually after this. Kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And then, okay, so does it stick the landing in making moments memorable? That's the difference between good and great. Something's good, okay, it's fine, it works, the music works. If something's great, it's like that. You're like, whoa, like, how did they do that? What did I just see? Like, that's what makes something great. And to be honest with you, you want to be trying to hit great every time. And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a trailer, if it's a commercial for a car, make it great. Like, make it the most amazing car commercial that people have ever seen. If it's a podcast or whatever, make your podcast, don't just settle for good, because good doesn't fly anymore. There's so much media flying at everybody right now. Like, it's coming from all directions. And so you have to be great. Like, we talk about that all the time, like with when we're marketing films. Like, you can't just cut a good trailer. Like, it has to do something that makes people talk. So on editorial style, I think we hit all these actually. A cadence, a rhythm to the spot. You want to make sure that that's important. Okay, so the next bucket, and this bucket is actually a little bit more unique to the Refinery. If you talk to other trailer people, they may not mention graphic design, but to us, like, you know, we think that our graphics can side by side against another company can make our trailers better and stand out more. And that's just a good, clean look. Doesn't have to be anything complicated, but make sure it's clean, make sure it fits the tone of what you're working on. Like, that's very important. And so, do you know what I mean by graphics? So whether it's like cards in the middle that say this fall, or the main title at the end, you know, stuff like that. I remember we did a piece for, there's a show, a Gordon Ramsay cooking show. Like, we work on everything. We work on trailers like this. We work on Gordon Ramsay shows. But it was just like this really, we decided to go for it with this spot. And what's a cooking show, right? It's like the same stuff over and over, food, knives, stuff like that. It was for a show called Next Level Chef. And we literally, you know, came up with this graphic concept that I'll send to you that turned into an award-winning piece. Like, so, yeah, so you can do something great. Sorry, I know, cliffhanger. You can do something great with anything. You know, I've won awards on pieces where it was like just some stupid job that came in at the last second that it wasn't even an important film, but for whatever reason I connected with it and just turned it into something great. And so, you know, always, no matter what you're doing, you know, it doesn't have to just do the job of selling the piece. Like, it can really, you can turn anything into an award-winning trailer. So I remember a couple of years ago, there was an editor in another shop. It was literally the first trailer that he cut on. Now I'm gonna try to remember this movie. I'll send you this one too. But he cut this teaser, and it was amazing. And the guy won, literally the first piece he ever cut. It was a trailer of the year, or teaser of the year. And the guy got to go up on stage in front of the entire industry. You know, he was like 23 or 22. And he wasn't a genius. He did something really unique and really cool. And the whole thing was literally one conversation at a dinner table. And so he took this conversation. It was for a Johnny Depp movie. He's a Boston mobster. I'm trying to think of the name. Anyway, there's a conversation at the dinner table, and he takes that conversation, and he starts visually. You see them talking, and then he leaves the dialogue, and then he cuts all the visuals from the film over this dialogue the whole rest of the way with like hardly any music. I think there was like a rise, this long rise under it, and it was amazing. And so, yes, yeah. Do you want to pull that up? Yeah, see if we have that. It should be the teaser.
What did you marinate the steak in? Because it's out of this world. You're killing me with it.
No. It's a family secret. Oh.
Come on, you gotta tell me that. What's the secret? Come on, you could do it. Come on. That is one of the best goddamn steaks I ever had in my life. Ever. What's the family secret recipe?
It's ground garlic and a little bit of soy.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I thought it was a family secret.
That's your recipe.
No. No. You said to me, this is a family secret, and you gave it up to me, boom. Just like that. You spilled the secret family recipe today. Maybe you spill a little something about me tomorrow.
I was just saying that.
You were just saying. Just saying gets people sent away. Just saying got me a 9-year stretch in Alcatraz. You understand? So, just saying could get you buried real quick. Look at his face.
Additionally, a teaser would come in under 2 minutes. So teasers were usually around like 1:30, and trailers were always 2:30. Every studio was allowed to do one trailer a year that was longer than 2:30. I don't know if most people know that, but like, so they would put out one trailer a year for the whatever that film was, and it might be like 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes. But two minutes to me is what you're trying to hit. You can be a little bit over. Don't go over 2:30. People get bored. We do a lot of trailers now that are 1:30. You know, people want shorter and shorter content now. So a teaser would come out first. And a teaser is usually not going to give you the full story. A lot of times they do the teaser before the film is even close to done. So they're just working with whatever shots they have at the time. That can happen with trailers as well. Like sometimes we work from, it's called dailies. And so dailies, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Dailies are great because you have access to everything. You have every take. Like I used to work off dailies for Empire. So I would have like, 15 different takes of the same scene. So if I wanted, Taraji to look a certain way, I could find it because I had everything. The other side of that is you have everything and you need to go through everything. So it's like hours and hours of footage. So you're not just dealing with like a 2-hour movie. You might be dealing with like, 7-8 hours of stuff. Yeah. So a teaser comes out first. Things are changing, so it's not as clear cut anymore. So I don't have a definitive answer for that. But usually you'll get the teaser for a big film, like something like Barbie, Oppenheimer. Teaser, trailer 1. They'll probably have trailer 2, sometimes even trailer 3 for those films. The streamers keep things a lot simpler. Netflix only does, except for their biggest stuff, they'll just do one trailer and maybe one TV spot. Amazon does a similar thing. So, but 2 minutes should be your target. And if you go a little shorter and it's great, that's fine. If you go a touch over that and it's great, that's fine too. Yep. It's basically the Motion Picture Association. So that's like the, when you see the green card at the top that says PG or R sometimes, like, or they have the red band trailers. When you see a red card that says R, that means that's the agency that regulates. Yeah, they have to see everything and make sure there's rules. Like there's rules in the U.S. There's different rules in Nigeria. In the U.S., like you can't like point a gun to camera. Like that's not allowed. You can point a gun this way, that way, whatever, but you can't point it right at camera. I know like in Nigeria, and don't hold me to this because I don't know if it's still the case. Like when we were working on Gangs of Lagos, we couldn't show kids under a certain age in marketing. So there's different rules per country. And I think it came like right at that point, right? Like right before you're about to hit Act 2 when they go in to the jungle. And then Act 3 is all the montage stuff at the end. Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do it for people who are musical geniuses, and I'm definitely not, is to have a click. It's called a click track. So it's click, 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 click. And you can, so we have, yep, exactly. And so we have a music supervisor, and so we'll say, you know, hey, his name is Joe, and we'll say, hey Joe, like, here's a cue. Can you make a click track? And he'll make sure it's timed. And then you can hear it, but you can also visually see it, which helps a lot too. And then, so if you want to get more advanced, you take that click track, and then you could add in half notes, right? So then now you have 2 different points where you can hit. And then maybe you get even fancier and you go, you know, halfway in between quarter notes. And so, but yeah, you just visually lay it down. I mean, you can make a click track with anything. You can literally just go like this, you know, hit the table or something, and make sure it's timed out, and then just copy and paste and lay it all the way in. And that's all you need. Like I did, can you pull up Fauda? RPG!
مين؟ هذا المقدسي.
ايه العلاقة مع حماس؟ فتش عليك.
ده أصل درون.
ניסה להרוג את אבא שלי, לא יגיע גם לילדים שלי.
אצטרף אליכם למבצע אחד עכשיו.
بتهمني وإذا بدك بطلعك من البلاد. راح تولع حرب. أخوك بده انتقام؟ راح ياخذ انتقام.
Yeah. So watch when they get ready. So it goes, can you pause for 1 second? So it goes, they're getting ready, and it's like, bump, 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 bump. So watch that. But then when the guy comes in to kidnap, you think it's going to be on rhythm, and I wait a beat. So you're bump, 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 and then you're like, boom. And so it's like, you have the rhythm, but then you break it for a second. And so it kind of keeps people on their toes. I don't know, see if you notice it. Yeah. Right there. So it waits. So that's good. So you see how it waited a second? Like it waited a beat? Like you think it's gonna come?
It's like you're playing mind games with the audience.
Yeah.
Because some people might be counting.
Right. And then kind of throw it. I'm sorry?
I said at each point where the sequence that you're playing doesn't really fall into the rhythm, it doesn't make a silence.
I mean, it's you know, as much as I say you want to stay in rhythm, you also want to break that rhythm sometimes, you know, and that's what music stop downs are for. Like I always say, when my editors are cutting a 30-second spot, if they don't have at least one music stop down, like it's not right, because then I'm just sitting there for 30 seconds. Like at least one or two, don't go crazy, because you don't want like 5 or 6, because then, you know, there's no rhythm at all. But you want at least 1 or 2 breaks where you stop, hear something that's important or funny or cool or whatever it is, and then boom, right back into the piece. It's hard. I mean, you basically have to find a theme that ties everything together. And you probably have to use copy. And so, you know what I mean by copy? Like, so it can be voiceover, or it can be voiceover and graphic on the screen. And so you have to use that to kind of guide the audience and tie it together. Yeah, that's a case where you'd probably have to have copy. If you absolutely have to get something done quickly, put the music down first. Then you have your foundation, and you know exactly where your breaks are going to be. And so like, if it's a 30-second spot, it might be opening of the cue, then you have 3 seconds, and then I'll put a stop down, even though I don't even know what that stop down is gonna be. But like, I've done it so many times that I know about where it's gonna come. And then boom, kick into the back end of the music the rest of the way through the piece. If you had to be fast, but again, don't get locked in. Like, even though I can kind of know where a stop down is gonna be, I wanna make sure that the bites I put in there are still really good. And if for whatever reason, they're not timed right to the music, then I need to adjust my music. Like, don't put in inferior bites or moments because you're so locked into that music cue. But usually, if I have to go fast, and I used to cut fast, so I used to work for a shop. We did commercials for like syndicated shows, like, or daytime talk shows. And so every day you had to do a 30, a 20, a 15, and a 10. And I literally had 2 Avids going. I had 2 different computers, and I would go back and forth. That was kind of crazy. But you know, I wanted to make more money. And so I knew that the way to make more money was to be fast. And so I would literally cut on 2 different things at the same time. And that was kind of how I attacked it. Like, I would throw the music down. I would, usually for stuff like that, there is voiceover copy. And so I would have a script. And so I'd throw those lines in. And then, you know, I could cut a 30-second spot in like, you know, 90 minutes if I had to, you know. I'm not recommending you do that, but you know, if you have to get something done quickly, that's usually the fastest way. My personal philosophy is I'll put in anything that's good, unless it's like a major reveal that is, you know for certain is gonna come in the middle of a film and you absolutely can't. Like, you know, if you find out, you know, your dad is not your dad or something like that, like you wouldn't want to put that in. But to me, I'm always like, just put the best stuff in. And then if the client thinks it's too much, then I can always take it out. But I always want to just lead with my best material. I think that's the way to go. Just don't give anything away that is like that is like literally like a secret piece of information or story that doesn't come until later in the show or piece. Yeah, that gets harder with streaming now. We do a lot of series, right? So with TV, television in the US, broadcast television shows, you used to basically just do a promo for every episode. But now with streaming, you're doing, you know, 8-10 episodes. You're doing a spot or a trailer for 8 or 10 episodes. And so it gets a little bit trickier with that. But I always just let the client kind of guide me to stuff like that. One thing I do is when I kick off a project, you can give them reference trailers or like find spots on YouTube that you're like, oh, I want my trailer or commercial to be like this one. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, but give them references. I think that can help. So it's almost like, cut it like this. You know, they're not going to copy it because ultimately it's going to become their own. But, you know, find other stuff, anything that can motivate them. You know, it could be a song. It can be a song. It can be a commercial. It can be anything. But just really give them references, and I think that will help. You know, one thing I've always struggled with, like I said yesterday, is like, I always just want to jump in because I know I can do it faster if I have a note. And you have to remember, if you do it that way all the time, people aren't going to learn. And so they're just going to do the same mistakes the next time. And so you have to be willing to hand over a little bit of control to them and let them do their thing. Based on how much time you have, then you need, if it's not working, then you need to sit down and have a conversation about what's not working. But it's hard to let go, I know, I get it, I understand. And if it's not good, you know, put someone else on it. On our team, we actually have a writer, and that's what his job is, to write copy. But for that line there, we probably had 20 lines. We probably had 20 pairs of lines. I don't remember, I cut this a while ago, so I don't remember exactly how we did it. Sometimes we'll just send all 20 lines to the client and say, hey, is there anything here you like? Sometimes they'll be like, just use whatever you like. You know, it really depends. But it's something we do early on. It's a good skill to have, actually, if you can write. I think producers should be able to write, creative directors should be able to write, because if you need to if you're on version 7 and they need the spot that night and you need to quickly rewrite it because someone doesn't like it, like you want to have that skill. It's a good skill. Editors actually should be able to write too. And you know, it's just a matter of practice. Look what's been done before. You know, I always say copy things you like and then make it your own, you know, put your own touches on it. But you know, I would watch, if you want to learn how to write copy, just pull a bunch of trailers and see what kind of lines they're using. There's a wide range. We have one market in the US. There's a market for broadcast, like a trailer that I might do for Kong. A trailer like Kong would probably be the highest amount. And to be honest with you, it's gonna sound like a lot of money, but it's a lot less than it used to be. And the goal now of most companies in the US is to win the trailer, because there was probably 5 other companies cutting trailers for that movie. They probably had at least 10 to 12 trailers, and that one won. That's the other thing. And so in theatrical, there's not just one person cutting a trailer. You'll have 3, 4, 5 companies all cutting trailers for that movie. And they don't pay that much. It's like maybe 30 or 40,000 US, which I know sounds like a lot, but when you have a company of 150 people, you know, and you have, no, but listen. Okay, I'm gonna give you a secret. They don't pay that much in other countries, or even close. And so that's why I say the market varies. Like that movie is gonna bring in $400 million, right? And so that's what it's based on. You know, like if you have a film for Amazon in Nigeria, you know, you might have 100,000 people watching it. If you have a movie like that, you know, Barbie, it makes $1 billion. So I know 40 sounds like a lot, but that's actually pretty small. And the issue we actually have in a lot of other territories is people don't spend money on marketing. It's an afterthought. For trailers specifically, usually you get paid for the trailer. Sometimes, like if you're a small company and you just want a chance on this movie, you could say, if you know the executive at the studio, you can say, hey, can you just give us a shot? We'll do it for free. And then if we win, pay us. That happens sometimes. You know, it's very competitive. When I first started, like when I talk about Titanic, at the time, we were the only company working on Titanic. Like, and we did everything. And it was, you know, millions of dollars that they put into marketing. But things have changed. You know, now there's 60 or 70 companies in the US who cut trailers when there used to be like 4 or 5 or 6. And so it's very competitive. Well, first of all, I would say make sure you're making one great one. Like don't spread yourself too thin where you have just 2 good ones. Make one great one. But if you're gonna make 2, you can have some of the same material in there, but you're gonna want the major points. You're gonna want different plot points, definitely. I mean, obviously, your setup usually is gonna be kind of the same because you're still telling the same story. But you want to show, if you're gonna do a second trailer, the point is to showcase different material, right? And so, you know, you would probably want different stuff. But it's not to say you can't use a shot that's in the first trailer. You know, you can always do that. Or music, you use different music. You want it to have a little bit different tone, right? Because the whole purpose is to show off a different kind of perspective on the story. But make sure you have one great one first. If you look on our website, I think it's still active. They have a intern trailer contest. And so we actually have an editor, a young guy that we just hired a few months ago. He was a manager at a department store, at like a Target in the middle of the country in Kansas, which is like, people in Kansas, you know, don't go to Hollywood. and he cut stuff on YouTube. He would cut fan trailers, and we had a contest, and he cut something, and he was impressive, and he's now working for us. He actually cut the Breath of Life trailer for Amazon Prime, which just came out. If you're doing a trailer, yes. If you're living in like maybe a quicker spot, like 30 seconds, some 30-second spots are more like a 2-act kind of thing. It's a little bit hard to get 3 clear acts in 30 seconds, but yeah, I mean, storytelling basically is gonna always have kind of the same rules and laws, you know, like, not to say you can't break those rules, you know, there's always opportunities to break them, but learn how to work within the rules first, and then you can start breaking them.
Thank you very much. I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's not for you, it's for the audience. Is there any movie, Nigerian movie, that you can remember the trailer that you really, really like? Gangs of Lagos. Which other one? Brotherhood.
That was good.
Okay. So isn't it funny that the same people did all these movies you talk about? So maybe the other question I would like to ask would be, is there any Nigerian company that you know that does trailer editing?
I
like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So for me, I think one thing that I'm taking away from this session is, at the beginning of the session, he said something. Why do we do trailer? Sell. So, and selling, if you can't sell, whatever you're doing, you're going to struggle. So either it's podcast, either it's our demo reel for climate change. It has to be on point. It has to sell. It has to sell. And I think that's what we need to take away from this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.